530 million.
It's one of those numbers, isn't it? It just kind of hangs in the air.
It really does. And I want to be super clear from the jump. We are not talking about, social media views or something abstract like that.
No. This isn't impressions.
We're talking about Saudi riyals. 530 million. Which, for our listeners around the world, you do the math, that's, what, over 140 million US dollars?
It's a massive, massive figure. I mean, that's the kind of revenue you see from a pretty decent-sized company over a whole year.
Or the budget for a city's infrastructure project.
Mm.
And usually, when a number like that crosses our desk for a deep dive, we're dissecting a corporation, right? A huge public company, maybe a tech unicorn.
For sure. Or a government department.
But today, that entire figure, that value, is tied to the work of just one person.
And that's the anomaly. That's the reason we're here, trying to get our heads around it.
We are looking at the career of a man named Khalid Abu Al-Huda. He goes by the pen name KX, both professionally and, as we'll get into, as an author. And we have this just huge stack of source material in front of us. We've got project portfolios, case studies, LinkedIn data, even excerpts from his books. And the mission today is to figure out how a single person generates that kind of tangible value.
And I think we need to pause on that word, generates, or secured, because it's so important.
Right.
This isn't someone who, won the lottery or inherited a fortune.
No, this isn't a heist movie plot.
Not at all. When we say he secured this value, we're talking about the world of high-stakes bid management. We're talking about proposals.
Okay.
This is value created by convincing governments and massive companies to trust your organization with their most critical systems, their data, their infrastructure, their people. It's about designing the deal itself.
That's what gets me. Because on one hand, you look through these files and you see this hyper-strategic corporate operator, a bid manager, a chief technology officer.
The guy in the suit.
The guy in the suit, exactly. Dealing with ministries in Riyadh, talking AI, digital transformation, supply chains, all very serious high-level stuff. But then you flip the page, and by night, this same person is a published author. And he's not writing, business self-help books.
No, he's not writing my 10 steps to closing a deal.
Not at all.
Yeah.
He's writing these deeply introspective, almost raw books. Titles like Darkness That Has Never Left or Scripted Survival.
It's such a fascinating contrast. You just don't usually find those two skill sets, that kind of emotional output, in the same person. It's usually the data guy or the poet.
Right. You rarely get both. So that's the puzzle for us today. In this deep dive, we're going to try and unpack the world of KX. How does the same mind handle the cold, hard logic of a government tender and the messy, subjective world of human storytelling?
And maybe the bigger question is, does being great at one actually make you better at the other? Is there a feedback loop there?
That's the theory I really want to test today. But before we get into the psychology, we have to set the stage.
Yeah.
Because this 530 million didn't just appear out of nowhere.
No, the context is everything. You have to understand the environment.
So paint the picture for us.
Okay, so it's early 2026. We're looking at the MENA region, but specifically Saudi Arabia. And if you've sort of been ignoring that part of the world for the last decade, you've missed one of the biggest economic transformation stories, well, of our lifetime.
You're talking about Vision 2030.
Exactly, Vision 2030. And it's so much more than just a slogan you see at the airport. It has been a root and branch rewiring of the entire country, physically and digitally.
I mean, they're literally building new cities from the ground up.
They're building cities, they're digitizing government services that were purely paper-based for decades. They're fundamentally shifting an entire economy away from just oil. It's like a national scale startup.
So it's like a giant construction site and a Silicon Valley campus all happening at once.
That's a great way to put it. And in that kind of environment, the government has these enormous needs. They need to track their water supply. They need to benchmark their tech workforce. They need safety standards for every product coming into the country.
And they can't just build all that stuff themselves overnight.
Of course not. So what do? They issue RFPs, requests for proposals.
Okay, let's stop there for a second. RFP. It's an acronym that gets thrown around in business all the time, and I think a lot of people just nod along. But what is it, really, for someone who's never seen one?
An RFP is basically a challenge. The government publishes this huge document, sometimes 50 pages, sometimes hundreds, and it says, we have this giant, complicated problem.
Like what?
Like, We need a digital system to manage every single piece of equipment in our national water infrastructure. Tell us in excruciating detail how you would build it, what tech you'd use, who would work on it, how long it would take, and what it would cost down to the last penny.
So it's not a simple question.
It's an incredibly complex question with thousands of rules and constraints, and then all these companies, big and small, compete to give the best answer. That answer, that document, is the proposal. And the person who conducts that orchestra, that's the bid manager.
To an outsider, that just sounds like paperwork, like the world's most complicated homework assignment.
And it absolutely can be if you're not good at it. But when you operate at the level we're talking about with NAICS, it's what I'd call commercial storytelling.
Commercial storytelling, I like that.
You're taking this incredibly dry, technical document and weaving it into a compelling story, a narrative that says, we don't just understand your problem on page 47, section C. We understand your pain. And we are the only ones with the credibility and the plan to make it go away. You're literally writing a promise.
And doing it better than 10 other global consulting firms who want the same contract.
Precisely. The stakes are immense. And you can see from the branding in his own documents that he sees it that way too. I'm looking at his portfolio header right now. KXNGWXR Air, the bids hero.
It's definitely not the usual, strategic solutions consultant you see on LinkedIn.
It's got a certain flair, for sure. It's bold.
It has this almost like superhero vibe, but then right below it, he breaks down his whole philosophy. Analytical rigor meets creative depth. Which, okay, it sounds great. It's a nice tagline. But anyone can say they're creative. Do we actually see the proof in the data?
Well, that's why we started with the number. The proof is in the 530 million. But let's break that headline figure down because the individual stats are in some ways even more impressive.
Okay, so let's get into section 1 of our deep dive. The metrics of success. The what?
The first number is 47 awarded projects.
47. I mean, is that a lot? Over a decade. It feels like a freelance designer might do 47 jobs in a year.
Again, the context is everything. These aren't logos. These are massive multi-year government and enterprise contracts. Just landing one can be a career-defining moment for some people.
Ah, okay.
So to win 47 of them in this hyper-competitive Saudi market, that's a very, very high batting average. But honestly, the number that really made me sit up, the one that tells you about the sheer grind of the job, is the 380 plus proposals delivered.
380. Okay, let's do some quick math on that. Over 10 years, it's more than 3 a month.
It's basically a massive, high-stakes, must-win document every week or two.
Yeah.
For a decade, without a break.
And what does one of those even look like? We're not talking about a 5-page memo.
Oh, heavens no. A proposal for a government ministry can be hundreds of pages long. You have your technical compliance documents, the financial models, legal reviews, detailed project plans, CVs for every single person on the team, methodology statements. It's a beast.
So he's effectively writing a technical novel every few weeks.
That's a perfect way to describe it. And he's not just doing it for one client. The source says he served 22 different government entities.
22.
Yep. The Ministry of Communications, the National Water Company, the Product Safety Center, Defense. It's not like he's just an expert in one little niche, like, say, road construction.
Yeah.
He's bidding on everything from AI platforms to military supply chains.
Which means he has to become a subject matter expert, instantly. You can't write a convincing proposal for a cybersecurity system if you don't understand cybersecurity.
You have to learn it faster than anyone else. He's a specialist in the process of understanding and winning. He knows the structure of the game, no matter what the specific topic is. He can pull the critical information out of the engineers and the data scientists and weave it into a story that the evaluators will accept.
In our pre-show notes, you highlighted one metric as being the most important one on the page: the technical pass rate.
Yes.
It says here it ranges from around 80% to 92%, depending on the role he was in. Why is that the key number, and not just his overall win rate?
This is a really important detail about how government procurement works. When you submit your bid, it's usually in 2 separate sealed envelopes, metaphorically speaking.
Okay.
Envelope number 1 is your technical proposal. That's the how. The evaluators open there first. They check your solution, your methodology, your team, your timeline. Does it actually meet all their requirements? Is it a sound plan? They give it a score.
So they're basically checking your homework to see if you understood the question.
Exactly. And if you don't hit their minimum score, let's say it's 80%, you're out. You're disqualified. They literally will not even open your second envelope, the one with the price in it.
Wow. So you could be the cheapest by $1 million, but if your technical score isn't high enough, they never even see it.
Never. The technical pass is the gatekeeper. It's the pure measure of your competence. Losing a bid on price. Look, that can happen for a lot of reasons. Maybe your competitor is desperate and lowballed the bid to buy the contract. Maybe your own company's leadership wanted a higher profit margin. A lot of that is out of the writer's control.
But failing the technical evaluation.
Failing the technical evaluation means you failed. It means your solution was wrong. Your plan wasn't good enough. It means you didn't understand what they needed.
And NAICX's rate is as high as 92%.
Which is it's astronomical. It means that more than 9 out of 10 times, the government client looked at his complex plan and said, yes, this is a valid, logical, and workable solution to our problem. That's the proof behind that analytical rigor tagline. It's not just marketing fluff.
There's one more stat here that I think is almost crazier than the money. 100% submission punctuality.
Yeah, that one definitely jumps off the page.
I mean, 380 plus proposals.
Yeah.
A decade of work. And he never missed a single deadline. The source even says some of them had turnarounds of less than 72 hours.
Anyone who's ever worked in a corporate environment, especially in proposals, knows that's basically impossible.
Right.
The server always crashes. The senior partner who needs to sign off is on a plane. The courier gets stuck in traffic. The portal for submission closes in 5 minutes and you get the blue screen of death. Something always happens.
So to have a perfect record, 100%, suggests an almost obsessive level of discipline and systems.
It's not about working harder on the final night. It means he's built a machine. You cannot rely on last-minute heroics to hit 380 deadlines in a row. You need workflows, checklists, templates, a whole operational framework. He's industrialized the process of creative and technical writing.
Which brings us to his background. Because when you describe someone that systematic, that, machine-like in their discipline, you picture a certain type of person.
You picture the person who was born wearing a tie.
Exactly. Went to a top business school, interned at McKinsey, lives and breathes spreadsheets.
But that is not NAICX's origin story. Not in the slightest.
Not even a little bit. If you go back to, say, 2012 to 2015, the guy who is now writing 500 million rial proposals for the Saudi government,
yeah,
he wasn't in a boardroom. He was online. He was a moderator for a website called Genius.
Which used to be called Rap Genius.
Yes. For anyone who doesn't know, Genius is the site where people go to annotate lyrics. It started with hip-hop. It was all about decoding the text. What's the double meaning in that Kendrick Lamar line? What's the historical reference Kanye is making there?
It's a platform dedicated to exegesis.
Exegesis. Okay, that's a big word. Break that down for us.
It's a term that usually comes from theology or philosophy. It means the critical interpretation and explanation of a text, trying to find the deep, true meaning. Genius just took that academic rigor and applied it to hip-hop lyrics, treating them like complex poems worthy of study.
And Eric's was a moderator there. The source says he reviewed over 20,000 annotations. He was editing content for huge album releases from artists like Drake, Kanye, Kendrick Lamar.
Just stop and think about the skill set for a second. To do that job well, you're looking at a line of text that is incredibly dense. It's packed with slang, with cultural references you only get if you're deep in the scene, with metaphors and internal rhymes, and your job is to unpack all of that.
To explain the context.
To explain why that specific line hits so hard. What's the history behind that reference? What's the emotion driving that word choice?
Okay, I see that. But play devil's advocate with me. How on earth do you connect analyzing a Drake verse to writing a bid for a national water company? They feel like they're from different planets, pop culture versus, government bureaucracy.
On the surface, they look completely different, but the core cognitive skill is identical. Think about a government RFP document.
Okay.
It's also incredibly dense. It's also layered with hidden meanings. It's written in this formal government-ese instead of street slang, but trust me, it can be just as cryptic and confusing to an outsider.
So you're saying the RFP is like the rap verse?
It's exactly like the rap verse. The bid manager's job is to perform exegesis on it, to deconstruct it, to find the client's hidden pain point that they don't state explicitly. If you have the mental muscle to deconstruct a complex Nas lyric to find the deep socio-political context, you have the exact same muscle needed to deconstruct a Ministry of Health tender to find their deep strategic need.
Wow. I had not thought of it that way. It's about pattern recognition and deep reading.
It's all about translation. And he actually connects the dots for us in the source material. There's a quote where he describes his job as translating complex requirements into clear, high-impact solutions.
That's literally what he was doing at Genius.
100%. He was taking a complex text and making it clear. He just swapped out one type of text for another. He went from analyzing bars to analyzing business requirements.
I love that connection. It really changes how you think about a career path. It's not about the industry you're in. It's about the cognitive tools you've built.
And it wasn't just the high-minded analysis. We have to talk about the other side of his early career, what he was doing in the trenches.
The customer service jobs.
Yeah, the ultimate training ground for communication. He worked for Etisalat in the UAE and also AT&T.
Oh, man. I can only imagine. Handling complaints about people's internet being down. That's a tough, thankless job.
The source says he was handling up to 250 chats a day, and it highlights one specific event. UAE National Day 2019. You can just imagine the pressure. Massive volume. Everyone's trying to use the service. Things are breaking. It's crisis mode.
What does a job like that teach you that you can apply to multi-million rial deals?
It teaches you everything that matters. It teaches you empathy under fire, and it teaches you crisis communication. When you're managing a massive bid, things go wrong all the time. A key partner might back out. The client might change the requirements at the last minute. If you panic, you lose.
But if you've already handled 250 angry people in one shift because their Wi-Fi is out,
then a spreadsheet error doesn't really faze you, does it? It builds a kind of a professional callus. It gives you resilience.
and it must teach you to be direct.
Incredibly direct. In a support chat, you have to solve the problem with clear, simple language. You don't have time for jargon. And that is exactly what a government evaluator reading your proposal wants. They're reading 5 other 300-page documents. They don't want poetry. They want the solution, clear and fast.
Okay, so we've got the analytical mind of a text critic and the communication skills of a crisis manager. But let's look at his formal education, because the source material points to this really interesting hybrid academic identity.
This is section 3 in our notes, and I think it's the glue that holds the whole story together.
We often talk about this problem of the two cultures in business, right? The gap between the arts and humanities people and the science and engineering people.
Yeah, the engineers who build the thing and the business majors who sell the thing. And they often can't stand each other because they speak totally different languages.
Exactly. One talks about voltage and latency. The other talks about margins and market share. But Meg X's education puts him right in the middle of that gap. He started out spending 3 years studying electrical and electronics engineering in Cairo.
So circuits, logic gates, systems. He didn't finish that specific degree, but 3 years is more than enough to completely rewire how you see the world. It gives you systems thinking. You learn to see everything as a flowchart, a series of inputs and outputs. It's why he's so good at complex IT bids. He can actually understand the architecture diagrams the engineers give him.
But then he made a switch.
He pivoted and got a Bachelor of Business Administration in Riyadh.
So now he has the other language, the language of the C-suite. Strategy, stakeholders, return on investment.
And the source material has this great little chart, the dual academic path. It shows his engineering background providing the analytical thinking and his business degree providing the strategy.
And what's the bridge between them?
The writing. His ability as a writer is the bridge that connects the technical logic to the business strategy.
That's the superpower, being the translator.
It has to be. Most proposals fail for one of 2 reasons. They're either way too technical and dry, written by an engineer who can't explain why it matters, or they're full of fluffy, vague business promises, written by a salesperson who doesn't actually understand the technology.
And he can do both.
He can read the circuit diagram from the tech team and then turn around and write the 1-page executive summary for the minister that explains, in plain language, why that specific circuit design is going to save the country millions and help achieve a key Vision 2030 goal. He connects the how with the why.
Okay, this is a perfect point to move from the theory to the actual projects. We've talked about his skills, we've thrown around this huge number, but what did he actually do? What did he build?
Let's dig into some of the case studies because they really show the incredible range of his work. This is the how.
The first one that caught my eye has this very sci-fi sounding name, the Asset DNA Initiative.
Sounds cool, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually about something incredibly practical and grounded. This was a project for the National Water Company. And the problem they had was something called invisible complexity. Basically, they have 34 different water facilities across the country, and their supply chain catalogs were a complete disaster.
What does that mean in simple terms? They just didn't know what parts they had.
Pretty much. Imagine you have 34 giant warehouses. In one warehouse, a specific type of water pump might be listed in the system as pump hydraulic 500-liter Model A.
Got it.
But in a different warehouse, the exact same pump from the same manufacturer is listed as unit, water propulsion, type of flow. And in a third, it's just PUMP 789 BLUE.
So if a pump breaks down in one city, you have no easy way of knowing if you have a spare one sitting in another city's warehouse. You just assume you don't and order a new one.
Exactly. And you end up waiting 6 weeks for it to be shipped from Germany, while a crucial water facility is running at half capacity, all because you had the part you needed just gathering dust 200 kilometers away. It's a data problem that costs a fortune in delays and unnecessary spending.
So what was the solution DX brought to the table?
He helped lead the proposal for this asset DNA project. The idea was to create one single, centralized master taxonomy for everything, a universal language. And they had to cross-map 7,100 unique types of equipment to make it work.
7,000. That sounds like the most tedious job in the world.
It is unbelievably detailed and unglamorous work. But this is the kind of stuff that makes a country actually function. This is building the institutional memory of the water company. Now, the system knows what every single bolt and valve is, what it does, and where to find it. It's foundational.
It's the infrastructure that supports the infrastructure. Okay, let's talk about the second project, the one for SAR.
Right, the Saudi Standards Metrology and Quality Organization. The project was for something called the Product Safety Center, or GEAM.
And this one is more of a digital transformation project.
A classic example. The goal was to build a single digital platform to manage all the safety and quality standards for products.
So getting rid of all the paper forms and rubber stamps?
That's the idea. Before this system, if you were importing, say, a new electronic device, it involved a mountain of physical paperwork that had to go to different places. It was slow and inefficient.
And the solution?
What's impressive here is the execution. The proposal wasn't just to build a website, it was to build an integrated ecosystem. This new platform connected directly to the systems at Customs, at the Saudi Food and Drug Authority, and at third-party testing labs.
So it's all talking to each other automatically?
Yes, and the results they projected were huge. The source notes that in the first 8 months of similar projects, you could see over 12,000 products registered. And this is the key stat, a 94% reduction in manual steps.
94%.
I mean, just think about what that means for business. That's the difference between a shipping container full of goods sitting stuck at the port for 3 weeks versus clearing customs in a day or two. That kind of efficiency is what fuels economic growth.
It's amazing how these seemingly bureaucratic IT projects have such a huge real-world impact.
They're the gears of the modern state.
Now, those two projects feel very tangible, pumps and products. But the third one you flagged, the MCIT workforce study, feels much more abstract.
This one is really interesting because it shows his strategic side. This was a 10 million SAR award from back in January 2025. The client was the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology.
And what was the problem they were trying to solve?
The problem was the tech talent gap. Saudi Arabia has these huge ambitions in tech, but do they have the people with the right skills to make it happen?
So do we have enough AI engineers? Do we have enough cybersecurity experts? That kind of thing.
Exactly. But the proposal was to design a system to measure it. A tech talent gap index that would cover 9 different critical digital domains: AI, cloud computing, data science, you name it.
So he's moved from bidding on physical infrastructure to bidding on human capital strategy.
It's a whole different level of consulting. You're not just selling them servers anymore. You are helping them design the future of their workforce to align directly with the national strategy of Vision 2030. That's a much more complex and strategic conversation.
Before we move on, I want to talk about the fourth category you pointed out, the micro wins, because these are almost my favorite part of the story.
I know exactly what you mean. It's the HDMI switches, isn't it?
It's totally the HDMI switches. The source material mentions him being involved in supplying things like HDMI KVM switches to the Council of Ministers and medical supplies to a military hospital.
Yeah.
My question is, why would a guy who is managing these massive multi-million-dollar strategic bids even bother with selling a few cables?
I think it shows a certain mindset, a service mindset, and there's a specific anecdote in here about just-in-time delivery. He helped avoid a 3-week procurement delay by quickly securing a very specific type of switch that was needed for a hospital's data room.
A 3-week delay at a hospital could be a really big deal.
It could be a huge deal. And what this shows is a philosophy of platform thinking. In his mind, it's all connected. If the Council of Ministers needs a specific switch to make their workflow more efficient, that's a part of their digital transformation too. And if he can solve that small, urgent problem for them, he builds trust.
So they'll trust him with the big problems later.
Exactly. It shows he's not too big for the small stuff. In the world of government bids, the devil is always in the details. If you get the spec wrong on one tiny component, you can be disqualified from the entire multi-million-dollar project. It shows he respects every single line item.
Okay, so that's the bid manager. But his career has evolved. Since August of 2023, his title is CTO of a company called New Era.
This is the big pivot. It's the move from being the writer of the promise to being the architect who has to deliver on it.
So what does a CTO role like that actually involve? What's he doing day to day?
A lot of what's mentioned is ERP system redesign.
The ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. Probably the three most feared letters in the IT world.
Without a doubt. ERPs are the central nervous system of a company. All the finance, HR, logistics, supply chain, it all runs through this one massive, complex piece of software. Changing it or upgrading it is like trying to perform open-heart surgery on a person while they're running a marathon.
And the source says he's doing rescue missions. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, there's a specific note here. Rescued failing ERP projects, avoiding 4.2 million SAR in penalties.
That's incredible. I mean, saving the company from a 4 million rial fine is just as valuable as winning a new 4 million rial contract.
In some cases, it's even more valuable because you're also saving the company's reputation. And we see a new quote emerge from this period. NAICS can't improve what NECs don't measure.
He's referring to himself in the third person there as the brand.
I think it's the brand ethos, yeah. He's not just the writer anymore, he's the technology architect. He's advising ministries on their digital maturity, helping them figure out how to comply with the big national data and AI standards like those from SDAIA or MCIT.
So he's gone from being the person who answers the RFP to being the person who helps the client figure out what they should be asking for in the RFP in the first place.
That's a perfect summary. He's moved upstream in the value chain. He's helping to shape the strategy before the procurement process even begins.
So on a purely professional level, the man is an absolute machine, a 530 million rial machine. But now we have to talk about the other side of his brain. We have to flip the record over and talk about the books.
The author persona.
And this is where the story just gets so much more interesting. Because, when a tech executive or a big shot consultant writes a book, you expect it to be about leadership or productivity hacks.
Right. You expect the 7 principles of synergy or my morning routine for crushing the competition.
Exactly. But the books Keats writes are called things like Darkness That Has Never Left, Scripted Survival, Second Chances.
The titles alone tell you these are not business books. They radiate a completely different kind of energy. Vulnerability.
The source material explicitly defines them as recovery literature and introspective memoir. And the themes are, well, they're the big ones. Identity, resilience, redemption, survival.
It's such a stark, powerful contrast to the objective, sterile language you'd find in a technical proposal for an IT system. And I have to think that contrast is the whole point.
What do you mean?
Well, think about his day job. It's all about external constraints. It's structured, it's compliant, it's about meeting the client's requirements down to the letter. The government needs X, Y, and Z. You have to subordinate your own ego, your own voice, to deliver what's asked for.
Okay.
But writing a memoir, that is the complete opposite. It's about fulfilling an internal requirement. It's about saying, this is my story, this is my truth. It's purely subjective. It's about finding your own voice again.
So do you think one helps the other? Is the writing an escape from the bidding, or is it fuel for it?
I think it's a feedback loop. There's a line in the source that says he lives at the edge of 2 worlds. One of strategy and systems, which is his work on national transformation, and one of memory and identity, which is his private self.
So it's about finding a balance between the two.
I think it's more than just balance. I think the writing is his processing unit. The world of high-stakes bids must generate an incredible amount of stress and mental noise. Literature, writing his own story, is how he makes sense of it all. It's where he gets to explore the human side of all the systems and strategies he builds during the day.
That makes a lot of sense. If you spend your whole day writing in the disembodied voice of a corporation, you probably have a deep-seated need to spend a few hours writing in the voice of an actual human being.
And just look at that title again. Scripted survival. That word, scripted. It feels so intentional. A proposal is a script for a project's future. Maybe writing was his way of examining the script he had been given for his own life and figuring out how to rewrite it.
Wow, that's a really powerful idea. From bids to books, like the tagline says. It's not just 2 separate activities, it's a single journey.
And think about the discipline again. We were blown away by the 100% punctuality on 380 proposals. Can you imagine the level of time management and sheer willpower it takes to also write and publish 4 books on top of a career that demanding?
I can't even get to all my emails in a day, let alone write a book.
Right. It shows that the systems thinking he applies to a ministry's IT problems, he also applies to his own creative life. He almost certainly has a process for his writing, just like he has a process for his bids.
It totally shatters that myth of the chaotic, disorganized artist. You can be both an artist and a machine.
Maybe in today's world, to be truly prolific in 2 demanding fields, you almost have to be.
So we have all these pieces on the table now, the metrics, the strange origin story, the huge projects, the author persona. I want to try and bring it all together. What is the overarching philosophy of Year X?
I think you can find the core of it in one quote from the source. Bidding is not about proposals. It's about promises and the systems built to keep them.
Proposals or promises. That really reframes the whole job.
It does. It shifts the goal from just winning the contract to ensuring execution feasibility. Look, anybody can write a proposal full of lies and impossible promises to win a deal, but he seems to be obsessed with the idea that if he writes it down, it has to be real, it has to be buildable.
That feels like the engineer in him talking. The engineer can't stand a design that looks good on paper but collapses in reality.
Exactly. And that flows directly into his idea of legacy. He talks about building institutional memory.
Like with the water company project.
Precisely. He's not just trying to deliver a project that works on day one. He wants to build systems and structures that will outlast him, that survive changes in government, new ministers, budget cycles. The people come and go, but a well-designed system, a database, a workflow that endures. That's the real legacy.
And he's doing all this from a workspace that the source describes as being filled with bookshelves, star charts, and cityscapes.
It's the perfect image, isn't it? The cityscapes are the world he's building, the bookshelves are the inner world he's exploring, and the star charts, I don't know, maybe that's about navigating the path between those two universes.
He's also clearly never stopped learning. The source lists 13 professional certifications: project management professional, generative AI, enterprise architecture.
He's constantly upgrading his own operating system. You have to. You can't survive for a decade in the tech and consulting world without being a relentless learner. The fact that he's already certified in generative AI tells you he's not resting on his laurels. He's already thinking about how that technology is going to completely change his job.
He's probably figuring out how to use AI to help write the next 380 proposals.
I wouldn't be surprised. But here's the crucial question, and it brings us back to the start. An AI can generate the text, but can it do the exegesis? Can it read between the lines of the RFP and truly understand the client's unspoken fear or ambition?
That is the 530 million rial question, isn't it?
It is. And I think that's why, at the end of the day, the human element is still his ultimate advantage.
So as we come to the end of this deep dive, what's the big takeaway? We started with this almost unbelievable number, but the story ended up being so much more personal and complex.
It did. I think what we've really profiled today is a modern polymath, someone who is genuinely fluent in the languages of data, of corporate strategy, and of the human heart, and who can translate between all three.
He's like the Rosetta Stone for this whole era of transformation in the region.
I think so. He connects the grand vision with the nuts and bolts execution. From a kid moderating rap lyrics to a CTO designing national systems. It's just a remarkable story.
And it really makes you reconsider the value of writing. We tend to dismiss it as a soft skill, but for Naex, the ability to write, whether it's a line of code, a technical proposal, or a chapter of a memoir, is his ultimate form of leverage.
That's the final thought I'd want to leave our listeners with. We live in this age of AI, and everyone's terrified that their job is about to be automated away. But what this story proves is that the uniquely human ability to synthesize complex information, to tell a persuasive story, and to connect with others on an emotional level, that is the one thing that can't be replicated.
The human element.
That's the difference between a document that gets rejected and a project that changes a nation. It's the ghost in the machine.
So next time you see one of these massive new infrastructure projects, or you use a government app that just works seamlessly,
ask yourself, who wrote the promise that made this whole thing possible?
And you have to wonder, was he listening to Kendrick Lamar when he did it?
You know, there's a pretty good chance he was.
That's our deep dive into the world of Naex. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.